I got to ask you, because of Y Combinator, because of startups and so on, the recent, and you've tweeted about this, about the Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. What's your best understanding of what happened? What is interesting? What is interesting to understand about what happened in SVB?
I think they just like horribly mismanaged buying while chasing returns in a very silly world of 0% interest rates. Buying very long-dated instruments secured by very short-term and variable deposits. And this was obviously dumb. I think totally the fault of the management team, although I'm not sure what the regulators were thinking either. And is an example of where I think you see the dangers of incentive misalignment. Because as the Fed kept raising, I assume that the incentives on people working at SVB to not sell at a loss their, super safe bonds, which were now down 20% or whatever, or, down less than that, but then kept going down. That's like a classic example of incentive misalignment. Now, I suspect they're not the only bank in a bad position here. The response of the federal government, I think, took much longer than it should have, but by Sunday afternoon, I was glad they had done what they've done. We'll see what happens next.
So how do you avoid depositors from doubting their bank?
What I think would be good to do right now is just and this requires statutory change, but it may be a full guarantee of deposits, maybe a much, much higher than $250K. But you really don't want depositors having to doubt the security of their deposits. And this thing that a lot of people on Twitter were saying is like, well, it's their fault. They should have been like, reading the balance sheet and the risk audit of the bank. Like, do we really want people to have to do that? I would argue no.
What impact has it had on startups that you see?
Well, there was a weekend of terror for sure. And now I think, even though it was only 10 days ago, it feels like forever and people have forgotten about it.
But it kind of reveals the fragility of our economic system.
We may not be done. That may have been like the gun falling off the nightstand in the first scene of the movie or whatever.
It could be like other banks.
For sure there could be.
Well, even with FTX, I mean, I'm just, that's fraud, but there's mismanagement. And you wonder how stable our economic system is, especially with new entrants with AGI.
I think one of the many lessons to take away from this SVB thing is how fast and how much the world changes, and how little I think our experts, leaders, business leaders, regulators, whatever, understand it. So the speed with which the SVB bank run happened, because of Twitter, because of mobile banking apps, whatever, was so different than the 2008 collapse, where we didn't have those things really. And I don't think the people in power realize how much the field had shifted. And I think that is a very tiny preview of the shifts that AGI will bring.
What gives you hope in that shift from an economic perspective? Because it sounds scary, the instability.
I am nervous about the speed with this changes and the speed with which our institutions can adapt, which is part of why we want to start deploying these systems really early, why they're really weak, so that people have as much time as possible to do this. I think it's really scary to like have nothing, and then drop a super powerful AGI all at once on the world. I don't think people should want that to happen. But what gives me hope is like, I think the less zeros, the more positive sum the world gets, the better. And the upside of the vision here, just how much better life can be, I think that's going to like unite a lot of us. And even if it doesn't, it's just going to make it all feel more positive sum.